West, y'all.
Moana Pasifika is a new Super Rugby team that's competing from next year, 2022 onwards. It'll be made up of 80% players that are eligible for Pacific countries and 20% from sort of random places. So do we think this is going to help the Manu going forward? Sally, do you want to have a crack at that one? You think that Moana Pasifika is going to help the Manu Samoa?
Yeah, I think it will help. I think what we need to first sort out quickly is I'm all for getting experience in, but this team is about breeding our own talent. People who are actually going to pledge their allegiance for either Samoa or Tonga, or whether we get Fijians into the team, I'm not too sure. So that's one thing that we need to filter out real quick. And I love the fact that, we've got Skopje Kepu, cool. We've got Christian Lally Funnel, but these are guys that are at the back end of their careers that are not going to contribute to any of these home nations, and that's the whole reason, or the main, what was the main of one of the main driving forces in terms of their plea to get our team in, was to help out our home nations. And then you're going to do the opposite thing by recruiting players who can't play for our home nations. So, like, one thing we've got to quickly sort is, after this year, moving forward, we've got to get players who contractually are going to pledge their allegiance. Yeah, cool. You can be eligible to play for the All Blacks. Cool. Then find a different Super Rugby franchise. But when you come play for the Moana Pasifika, you have to have the intentions of putting on a jersey for one of these Pacific home nations. That's one thing that we got to need to sort. The second thing is that we've got to make sure that there's some opportunities to get into the team. So, like, we've got to make sure that we do bring on some of our players from the islands. I know their level of rugby will never be there, but we've got to make a start somewhere, right? And if we can bring in players or even coaches or some sort of any managers or coaches from overseas, we've got to make like some sort of like a connection or a network with them, just so that, because we've got some good coaches and within the ranks at Moana Pasifika, it would be awesome if those guys can get the experience to take it back to the home countries and then use that experience to build up the players there. That's probably the two main points for me. Just make sure that we have players that are coming into the team that can play and pledge their allegiance for the home countries, and then as well as making sure that there's some sort of program in order to bring in players. Cool, you might not be on contract, but let's like help these players grow, so that, as well as the coaches that we bring in, help them grow, so that when they do go back to the home countries, that they can help teach those skills, teach those abilities that they've learned with being in the Moana Pasifika camp, and then help that grow the game back home. Because at the end of the day, that's probably where we need to address the issue most, is not in New Zealand where Moana Pasifika is based, but is actually back in the home islands. If we get their talent levels up, it's never going to reach Super Rugby or Mitre 10, but if we can get them up to a level where it's consistent with the club level that we see on a weekly basis, man, that'll be awesome for our players moving forward.
Yeah, good thoughts there. What about you, Roger, mate? What do you think? You think Moana Pasifika is going to make a big difference to getting the Manu back up?
Well, they'll contribute to an extent, because obviously they're talking about having Tongans in there that are eligible for Ikaletahi, whether the Drua have the bulk of Fijian players contracted to them, but you never know, because Moana Pasifika will still be open to having Fijian eligible players as well, I suppose, being a Pacific rugby team. But I think, I sort of second everything that Sully said. But my only issue is that, you're going to have that 20% of players who will come in, whether they've already played for another international country, like the likes of Lali Whanu and Kepu. But then you're going to also, it opens up the question for players who haven't played for any nation, and whether they come in with the intention initially to play for one of the island nations, but then who knows, they could then get scouted and get drafted into an All Black training camp.
Yeah, exactly.
If they're that good. Hey, so that's the loophole, because you say it's for the Pacifica teams and that, but I guess that's where one of the sort of injustices from a Pacific standpoint would be is that they get put into another, whether it's Australia or the All Blacks. Being close to home, South Africa will be out of stretch if someone was to come in and play and be eligible for South Africa. Although there is that one, no, I can't remember who it was. One of the wingers. Oh no, sorry, Talea. Hey, that played for the Blues. He's South African and Samoan. Yeah, so he'll be the only one. But I guess in terms of pathway, yep, I really second that with what Sully was saying. But then also even going to more grassroots is that, from what I know, that super teams have the under 20s program or the development program. So that's where if you have a similar Moana Pasifika under 20s, and that will gain the interest of younger players coming through. Yes, I really do want to play for a Pacific team, and if Moana Pasifika is that pathway where we go through that that grade group, and then graduate into the fully fledged senior team. But again, there's wiggle room that they go through any development, and then you could be under 20s for the Chiefs, but then you'll be playing senior rugby down at the Highlanders. So I guess those are some of the challenges ahead for trying to capture our talent and remaining Pacific focused. But again, it's just another pathway, another sort of route for young players as well as PI players to go on to higher honours. And I guess that's the number one sort of purpose. But we know that there's sort of other avenues that can take hold, and if other teams become interested for our players. But I think it's a good step in the right direction, especially having a super team, whatever form it is, and we've got it in the form of Moana Pasifika, and we can only hope for big things. And I think their intention is to try, like you say, Sully, we don't want to be just making up the numbers. We want to get off to a really good start and be competitive. What I don't understand in previous years, where they've gone with the Japan Sunwolves, where they've gone with the Haguares, if they really want to invest in Pacific rugby, they should have been done a long, long time ago. But how has Super Rugby benefited Japan? We could say, yeah, Sunwolves have, but then Japanese rugby, they've been professionals for a long, long time, and they have players playing all around the world before the advent of the Sunwolves. So I don't really get as to why the Sunwolves were even looked at in terms of a financial benefit. That's the only thing I can put my finger on. It didn't really serve Super Rugby, let alone Japanese rugby, too much, because a lot of those Sunwolves players were from all over the place. You had your journeyman like your Lockie Molly that used to play for the Blues, Club Rugby in Auckland, Michael Little, who the great Walter Little's son, playing there as well. But then you had other players, a guy named Jared, can't remember his surname, Dowers, I think it was. He was a prop for Counties and later Auckland. I think he's now playing for the Turbos.
Jared Adams,
Adams. So he was floating around Super Rugby with the Sunwolves. So and you got to go where the opportunities lie. And so good on him for doing that. And who knows? Is he another one that's in the picture for? Because I don't think he's had any international ties, and he's currently down at the Turbos, like Ray Nuia, like Eddie Fidel, both Manu players. So is Moana Pasifika in their horizons?
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Because they're quality players.
I think those two are definitely.
Sorry, Sully, you want to add something? You're carrying about it.
No. I agree with everything Rog said. I think I just hope that moving forward that it does help out our home nations. Like I'm sick of having this feeling of waiting every 4 years and then come to the World Cup, and it's just utter disappointment. The good thing about Moana Pasifika is that now me and Rog can support the same team. You know, so you know.
For once.
We can all support the same team. Hey man, if you guys are up for it, man, we'll become season ticket holders, bro, and we'll go support our boys. You know, whether they get pumped or, you know, what I reckon the support's gonna be crazy. You know, it's gonna be good to Samoan and Tongan. If Moana Pasifika are smart, they're gonna create a flag that everyone can bloody go crazy with. You know, at the field. So that's probably one of the main best things is that it's not just with Rogers, for all my other boys, you know, whether they're Hurricanes, Highlanders, or whatever team that they support. Now we can all cheer for the one team.